Moving on, it's all about business, and Dubai undoubtedly is the place for business. The Dubai Multi-Commodities Center, DMCC, was started just around the turn of the millennium, about 2 years after, with a mandate to provide physical, market, and financial infrastructure and information to establish Dubai as a global commodities hub. So it's only right that we have with us the CEO of DMCC, Mr. Gautam Shashittal, who will talk to us about the future of trade. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Gautam Shashittal.
Thank you very much. Just want to check that you can hear me. Yes. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen. A very good morning to you all, and it's wonderful to be here in Colombo and to have this opportunity to speak to you all. Already, since last night, I've had the opportunity to meet friends from the industry, seen a lot of familiar faces. No surprise, really, given our connectivity to your industry. Outside this room, I'm sure you all compete fiercely for market share, but in here, you're all here working for one reason, working for the common good of the industry. DMCC is, as always, delighted to support this conference. But this conference is very dear to me personally for several reasons. First of all, the GPC has its home in our free zone, the Dubai Multi-Commodities Center free zone in Dubai. This and the fact that several of you sitting in this room are either DMCC members or are connected with DMCC member companies, that almost makes it a personal family affair for me. But secondly, and more importantly, I guess, is that I am a firm believer in pulses. As a vegetarian, my diet is predominantly made up of lentils, beans, and peas. In fact, I was asking my wife just the other day as I was preparing my speech to say, what percentage of our diet at home is made up of pulses? And she said, a third. And I was surprised, actually, but if she said it, she must be right. My personal trainer at the gym, for instance, is forever complaining about my nutrition. He always says, I need more protein, I need to have more meat, and so on and so forth. But I can tell you that I get a significant majority of my nutrients from the pulses I eat. Protein, fiber, vitamins, amino acids. So I have you all in this room to thank for my state of health. I came across this great article the other day, written by Tony Naylor in The Guardian, which was titled, "The Pulses Are Rising." Sounds like the title of a horror film, but it isn't. Naylor writes that although pulses are becoming more mainstream, they still suffer from a severe image problem in the UK especially. He goes on to quote Jean Chandler, who was UN's European ambassador during the 2016 Pulse campaign, saying, "They're incredibly economical and versatile chameleons, in that they will take on whatever Italian, Spanish, Mexican, or Indian flavors you want." She goes on to say, they're also nutritious, full of protein and fiber, and a no-brainer if you're worried about gaining weight or blood sugar levels. Because you've got this complex carbohydrate, slow-release energy. They keep you full for hours, feeling content rather than sluggish. These are very exciting times for those working in pulses and the agri-industry in particular. You've heard from Mr. Arslan on what your challenges are and what you're trying to do to resolve them as a confederation. All around us, we're seeing more and more interest in the capability of the industry to address some of the biggest challenges humanity faces. We all know that global demand for food is growing exponentially as human population is growing. According to McKinsey, by 2050, crop demand will have increased 100% from current levels. And by 2030, at current rates, 40% of the planet's demand for drinking water will not be met. These are very big challenges. Solving them will require new thinking and bold innovation. According to the United Nations, high input, resource-intensive farming systems cannot long-term deliver sustainable agriculture and food production. Needed are innovative systems that protect and enhance the natural resource base while increasing productivity. And pulses, I suppose, play a very key role in crop rotation, adding natural nutrients back into the soil, aiding in lowering the environmental impact of food consumption and production. And governments around the world are highlighting pulses as a key food for a sustainable diet. Yet, much needs to be done. As you heard earlier from Mr. Arslan, we need to produce in the next 40 years what we produced in the last 10,000. Today, the agri and agri-food industry is worth about $5 trillion US. That figure is only going to have to increase over the coming years. The pulses industry is worth between $10 and $12 billion, which would appear to be a tiny fraction of the size of the total agri-industry. But an interesting fact that I came across is that pulses production has been growing at a rate significantly higher than that of cereals. Between 1999 and 2014, according to FAO Stat, pulse production increased by 45% relative to cereals at 38%, whilst the world's population grew by 24%. That's incredible growth, especially as most of you will know, investment into the industry is far from simple. So it's useful to have some advice, and it's useful to be surrounded by people who are prepared to offer support and guidance. Increasingly, that is the role DMCC offers our 15,000 plus client companies based in the DMCC Free Zone in Dubai. We are committed to doing everything we can to help agribusinesses grow and thrive in Dubai, in the UAE, and beyond. And there's a huge opportunity available with us for those of you in the room. I will touch on this a little later, but before I do, let me take a minute to talk about how Dubai has established itself as an important hub for the agribusiness, including pulses, and why these industries are important more than ever when thinking about the future of trade. It seems counterintuitive in many ways. Dubai has less than 7% arable land. Food imports into the UAE account for some $3 billion annually. Despite this, Dubai has become a natural partner to the agribusiness industry. Dubai, of course, is a natural hub for traders and re-exporters, primarily because of location, free trade policies, world-class infrastructure, and connectivity. We sit between producing and consuming countries, and we have access to over 2/3 of the world's population on our doorstep. We are ideally positioned when it comes to accessing and connecting the world's most exciting food markets. Dubai offers the right infrastructure and regulatory environment to make it a very attractive destination for the global agribusiness industry. As you will have guessed by now, trade is very important to us at DMCC, and we always say that DMCC is made for trade. We therefore spend a considerable amount of time looking into what the future of trade holds. We published a report on the future of trade in 2016, and we're due to publish a repeat or a new report next week in London. Now, the research that we published in 2016 suggested that digitalization of commerce could lead to a six-fold increase in the number of businesses who will export goods over the next 10 years. And you can see this report on our website at www.dmcc.ae, so I won't go into the details of it. But since our report was published 2 years ago, the pace of change has been enormous. And the digitalization of trade continues apace. Then we talked about robotics, autonomous vehicles, 3D printing. Now we're talking about artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies, and cryptocurrencies. 2 years ago, we talked about the growing influence of East over West. And today, we're seeing the dark clouds of tariffs, non-tariff barriers, threats of trade wars, and the increasing preponderance of bilateral over multilateral agreements. So it is timely that we're launching this year's Global Future of Trade research next week with a heavy commodities focus. That way, we can all get some fresh perspectives to consider. Unfortunately, I can't talk about any of these findings just yet, but what I can say is that the correlation between the impact of digital and shift in trade flows right now is nothing in comparison to what experts believe it will look like a decade down the road. Which brings me to DMCC and the ways in which we're doing everything we can to support agri-companies and those of you in the pulse sector specifically. For those of you who are not familiar with DMCC, let me give you a brief description. DMCC is a market maker for global trade and enterprise. We do this by providing all the products, services, physical and financial infrastructure that businesses need in order to trade with confidence. For the last 3 years, we were ranked #1 free zone in the world by the Financial Times FDI magazine. We offer an ultra-modern commercial environment in which resident businesses pay 0% corporate taxation, where there is no limitation on repatriation of profits, and where you can hire the best talent from across the world. Companies like Louis Dreyfus, Cargill, Olam, Hakan Agro, John West Foods are just some of the companies that are present in the DMCC free zone. But beyond high-quality commercial space and infrastructure, we provide cutting-edge physical platforms for trade. Our mandate is simple: to facilitate trade through Dubai and to connect new markets and more established markets. We do a lot with the agri-industry. In 2016, we launched the DMCC Food Trade Group. And the Food Trade Group has done some excellent work for the industry through collaboration with GAFTA on education and local standardization of contract terms, through agreements with global names such as Maersk in the area of trade finance, through events that bring the most influential people from the agri-industry together to network and to share knowledge. It is great to live in a connected world, but there is no substitute for a smile and a handshake when it comes to doing business. And it is only by coming together and talking to one another that this industry will find ways to tackle the challenges that we all mentioned earlier in the speech. I would love to talk to you more about how DMCC can support the agri and the food industries and the pulse industries. But let me close instead by inviting the GPC convention to return to Dubai in 2020, the year of the Dubai Expo 2020. The last time your conference was held in Dubai was 2012, and we look forward to another successful event in Dubai, which we as DMCC will actively support. Have a very successful conference. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.
That was the CEO of DMCC, Mr. Gautam Shashittal. Mr. Shashittal, just a moment, please. Mr. Shashittal, I'm sorry, my apologies. May I please request the chairperson of the Speakers Committee for Pulses 18, Colombo, and of course the Managing Director of Hakan Agro, Mr. Sudhakar Tomar, to please present a memento to Mr. Gautam Shashittal. Thank you, Mr. Shashittal. Thank you, Mr. Tomar.